When was the last time you updated your Windows apps? If you're like me, well, past me, then you probably have some apps that are years out of date and don't even realize it. Microsoft Windows gives users the freedom to install apps from every corner of the internet. Unfortunately, that also means that Microsoft isn't regulating or keeping track of where these programs came from, let alone if they're up to date or not. This is all about to change with Windows' new package manager, Winget. Soon you'll be able to patch out all those annoying software bugs with a single command, and probably get a few new ones. Today we're going over some options on managing your software on Windows, and what solution is best for you. Let's get into it. Jokes aside, keeping your software up to date is generally a good idea, and it's rare that you get a negative impact from a software update. In any case, most of the options I outlined today have the ability to install an older version if you ever need to. So if you're familiar with Linux, then you're probably familiar with package managers like apt-get or RPM. They've been around in Linux for quite some time, and they help you install, manage, update, and keep track of applications that are on your machine. They can install prerequisite software so that you don't have to hunt down runtimes that are needed for your software to run properly. They also keep track of repositories, or where software lives on the internet, so it knows when your software is out of date and how to get the latest version. The first option we're going over today is Winget, which is an official option from Microsoft. While it's only at version 0.1.4, they have an outlined roadmap for the next year to get it to be a fully fledged piece of software built into Windows. Right now it supports around 700 different pieces of software. However, it's currently lacking in features and doesn't support a lot of what the other options do currently. It probably will by its final release, but that's quite a ways out. The next option we'll be going over is Chocolatey by Chocolatey Software. It's an open source package manager that's community driven. What that means is the packages are moderated by the community, and that can be seen as both a positive and a negative thing. You'll get a lot more packages. In fact, there's somewhere between 5,000 and 7,000 packages currently supported. However, the fact that the packages are community moderated means that there may be some software that could have malware or simply doesn't run as expected. It's also the most difficult package manager to get up and running off the bat. Lastly, we'll be going over Ninite by the company called Secure by Design. While Ninite isn't a real package manager, it can accomplish the same task and is incredibly intuitive. While there are only roughly 70 applications supported by Ninite, these applications are curated by Secure by Design and are at the top of their categories in terms of quality. Let's start with Winget. So here we have a fresh install of Windows with just Google Chrome and Zoom installed for work purposes. To get Winget installed, we actually have to go to a GitHub page for Winget. The quickest way would be to search for Winget GitHub. And the first hit should be the web page github.com/Microsoft/Winget-CLI. Now if you scroll down, you'll see a category for installing the client. There's two options from here. The first option is you can sign up using your Microsoft account, and that will flag your Microsoft account to get these preview updates for the app installer, which is where Winget resides. A simpler method would be just to manually install it using this releases link. The first method takes a little bit of time for your application process to take effect. Could take a few hours. So let's do the manual way by clicking on this releases link. From here, it'll give you information about Winget and how to use it. At the bottom, there's an assets section with a link to a APPX bundle file. Just click that to download it. Once it's downloaded, run it. And you'll have a install button here. Since I've installed it already, I'll be clicking reinstall. Once it's finished installing, you'll get a pop-up saying, for proper functioning of the app, try to launch a Windows app package. That's completely normal. Next, you'll want to open up a either command prompt or a PowerShell prompt. So I will run command prompt here. And when you type the winget command, you should get a bunch of options and a list of commands that are available. Currently, there's install, show, source, search, hash, and validate. For the average person, you're probably only going to use install and search, possibly show. So let me show you how you would do a search for an application. So say we want to install VLC Media Player. We type winget, search, and then the name of the program, so VLC. Hit enter, it'll search through the repositories, and if it finds a hit, it'll list it. So it found one program called VLC Media Player, and that's what we want. So to install that, the best method would be to type winget install, and then use the ID tag, which would be --ID, giving it the exact name of the ID of the program. So videolan.vlc, and hit enter. Now it will download the installer MSI or executable depending on the program and install it. Now, since I didn't launch the command prompt as administrator, you're going to get these user account control pop-ups for every application that requires administration rights. That's completely normal. Just click yes. Once it's done, you'll see that there is a VLC Media Player shortcut on my desktop, and we can verify that is the latest version. Now, if using the command line and trying to search through applications is a little bit much, you can use web pages to actually build the lists of installs for you. So we're going to go to two different web pages. One's wingetit.com, and the other one is winstall.app. Both of them have roughly the same functionality, where you can pick different applications you want to install. And if we want to install these, we can get the PowerShell command by clicking on the big Get PowerShell command button. Now, wingetit.com only gives you PowerShell commands, whereas winstall, if we choose a few applications here, like ShareX, we'll choose OBS Studio again, and maybe Notepad++. So once I've picked the few I want, we click Generate Script, and you'll see that this, by default, is a batch script, and we can get a PowerShell script by clicking this little checkbox. So we'll copy that script and bring it into our command prompt and paste it. So it makes it a little bit easier than trying to find the exact IDs of all the software that you want. In Winget, there is no upgrade or update command, at least not yet. They're currently planning to include that, as well as a list command to see what applications have already been installed using Winget. Next, we'll move on to Chocolatey. Now, Chocolatey actually installs using a PowerShell script. First, we're going to navigate to Chocolatey's webpage. Now, on this page, you'll see a few options for installing. The simplest method is to copy this following command, copy it to clipboard, and then we have to bring it into PowerShell. So from your start menu, find PowerShell and run it as administrator. If you have an older version of Windows, you may have to right-click the application and do run as administrator from there. Say yes to the UAC prompt, and paste the code that you got from the Chocolatey webpage. Once finished, you should be able to type Choco, and it'll reply back that it has the latest version of Chocolatey installed. To get commands for Chocolatey, type choco-, and there's quite a few. The most used ones are all the way at the top, so unfortunately you have to scroll all the way up. See the default base commands such as list, search, install, upgrade, uninstall. There's a few ones here that Winget does not currently have. So to install an application, first you're going to need to know its exact name. We'll do a search using Chocolatey, which is Choco search. And let's try reinstalling VLC again. So it comes with a lot of different versions of VLC. The top one is actually just the plain VLC latest version. So we will do Choco install VLC. Let it run. So it downloads the latest version of VLC and asks for permission to run the script. I'll say yes. And it is actually installing over the current version of VLC. Now if we reinstall it using the same command, Chocolatey knows that it's already the latest version, as it makes a record of the version that was installed by Chocolatey, and then when it checks the repository, it sees that it already has that version installed. We can verify that again with ShareX. So let's see if ShareX is just called ShareX in Chocolatey's repository. And it looks like it is. It downloads ShareX as well as any prerequisite files it needs and asks to run the script. If you say all, it'll allow all scripts to run. So it installs all of the prerequisite software, and it also is reinstalling ShareX. Another useful feature of Chocolatey is the list command. So choco list. Now if I just hit enter here, it'll actually list out all of the software in Chocolatey's repositories, which is over 7,000. That's not what we want to do. If we use the -lo command at the end, which stands for local only, it'll give only the packages that are currently installed. And you'll see we have VLC, ShareX, and then a bunch of prerequisite software. Now this list comes into play when you try and use the upgrade command, which essentially upgrades all the software that you currently have installed. So typing choco upgrade and a specific piece of software will update that software, such as VLC. It'll check if it needs an update, which it doesn't. But instead of typing a specific piece of software, if we type all, it'll go through that list and check every piece of software that you have installed using Chocolatey to see if it needs to be updated. Very useful down the line. After you've started using Chocolatey for a while, you can upgrade all of your software with this. Now, if searching using the command prompt is a little bit cumbersome, you can still use a web page like Winget. The repository is actually right on Chocolatey's webpage. So chocolatey.org, and click the Find Packages button. And here you can sort through all the packages that Chocolatey has. So say we want to install 7-zip. Searching for 7-zip will give you that same listing of applications, and you can copy to clipboard the application you want to install and then paste. Making it a little easier. You don't have to do all the typing and all the searching from the command prompt. Unfortunately, I don't believe there is a way to easily mass install like WinInstall and Winget had. Lastly, there is a third-party GUI application add-on for Chocolatey. If you search for the package Chocolatey GUI, you'll find this package called Chocolatey GUI. And if you install that, you get a graphical interface for Chocolatey. So eliminates the need to use a web page for installing, upgrading. No command prompt is necessary. Once Chocolatey GUI is installed, you should be able to find it on your start menu. You could also run it from the command prompt with Chocolatey GUI as the command. And it will launch the graphical interface. So from the Chocolatey graphical interface, in the This PC tab, you'll see all the software that is currently installed on this machine. In the Chocolatey tab, you can search for and install other software. So say we wanted to install AVI Demux. You can search for AVI Demux in the search field. And we only have one hit. Right-clicking it will allow us to either install or get more details on the app. So click install, and it will run the code in the background, which installs it for you. So no need to launch the PowerShell prompt. And done. Now you see if we go back to this PC tab, we should have AVI Demux listed. Now a couple things that Chocolatey GUI has that the base command line interface doesn't is the ability to save your list of applications easily. So if you click this little export button, you can actually save your config file. I'm just going to save it to my desktop. chocoapps.config. Click save, and that will actually let you transfer your list of apps to a different machine if you needed to. You see it lists out all the applications we currently have installed. Now we can use that to install that same set on another machine if we want. So opening up a PowerShell prompt again, and I'll do it as administrator. If we migrate or move over to my desktop where the file is and do choco install and my config file that I saved, it actually goes through each one of those applications and attempts to install it. Since it's already installed, it didn't do anything, but if this was on a fresh machine, it would have installed all 20 of those packages. And lastly, you can update all applications using Chocolatey GUI by clicking on the Update All button next to that Export Save button. Currently it's grayed out because Chocolatey GUI knows that all my applications are up to date. Lastly, we have Ninite, which is the easiest of all three options. It's as simple as going to ninite.com and scrolling down to select which apps you want to install. Check off the ones you want. And once you're satisfied with your selection, go down to the Get Your Ninite button. Clicking that button will initiate a download, and this download is actually a very small file that queues up a downloader to download and install all of your selected applications. So when we run this, the downloader launches, and if we click Show Details, you can see all of the applications it's trying to install or update. Notice how it already knows which applications are installed and which applications are already up to date. So it'll only download and install the ones you need to update. Now if you want to check for updates later down the line, all you have to do is rerun that downloader installer. So I'm going to look in my downloads folder and find that same Ninite download that I just downloaded and rerun it. You'll see under details that it goes through each application that we selected, verifies that it's up to date, and if it isn't, it will download and install the latest version. It's great to see Microsoft finally incorporating a package manager into Windows. Unfortunately, it's not quite ready for prime time, as it lacks the essential features that make using a package manager worthwhile. These features are all planned for the final release, so I'm optimistic about what Microsoft's final product will look like. For now, I'd probably recommend Chocolatey for a more experienced user. As long as you're familiar with the command line It just features a much more robust application library and makes updating all your applications a cinch. For everyone else, Ninite is a great option, especially if you aren't familiar with all the software choices out there. Its small, curated list gives you a great idea of what the leaders are in every category for free software, and makes it very easy to install and fairly easy to keep them up to date. Its small library can guide you to find great software out there that's both popular and vetted. So are you going to switch to a package manager, or do you prefer the old-fashioned way of hunting down installers from web pages? Are you already using Winget, Chocolatey, or Ninite? Or do you know of a better option out there? Leave it down in the comments. If you have any package manager questions or just tech questions in general, stop by my Twitch stream. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday from 7:45 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Hopefully you found this guide helpful. If you did, feel free to smack that thumbs up button and subscribe to see similar content in the future. But above all else, stay curious.